Happy Easter, everybody. It's one of the best day of the year, isn't it? What a day to get baptized, Easter Sunday, 2025. Folks, this is a Bible, and this is part of the Bible that's prepared for you. You can use this today, especially if your eyesight is like mine, and it's difficult to see this. Now, when Ruth prayed, she talked about it being God's word. And that's what we believe as Christians, that the main way that God speaks to us is actually through the Bible. Now, having said that, a lot of this is really difficult and really strange. When you read the Bible, a lot of it is poetry, and it's really tough to understand, and there's lots of metaphor. But the passage that we're looking at today is different. It's from Mark's Gospel, and when we talk about the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, we're talking about accounts that are based on eyewitness testimony. Do you know what that means? An eyewitness is somebody who is present to see exactly what happened. So there were eyewitnesses of Jesus being risen from the dead. That's very, very important. And we read about the first three eyewitnesses. They were all women, and their names were Mary and Salome. And they got up, I don't know what time you got up this morning, but they got up very, very early, and they wanted to bring some spices to anoint Jesus' body. His body had been in a tomb since Friday afternoon. And they came because the spices would honor the body. They wanted to honor the body of Jesus and preserve the body of Jesus. But above all, it was a way of showing respect. Respect for the person of Jesus, but respect for the body. But as they came, they were wondering how they were going to roll away the huge stone that was in front of the tomb. How were they going to do this? But when they got to the tomb, there was a young man sitting there by the tomb who told them, "You're looking for Jesus of Nazareth. He is not here. He is risen from the dead. Look where they laid his body." Now, folks, I know that we live in a day of what's called post-truth. Everybody is telling stories and claiming things are true, and we are taught to doubt. We're taught to doubt everything today. But you know, in order to have meaning in life and in order to have justice, we need to have truth. How do we establish whether something is true or not? Well, we have evidence. And just in the next 4 minutes, I want to tell you the evidence for the resurrection of Jesus based on the testimony of eyewitnesses. So if you look at the sheet and you're filling it in, the first thing that I want to say this morning is, it really happened, folks. This isn't a story. This is eyewitness testimony, and there is evidence. And the first piece of evidence is the empty tomb. We've got no bones of Jesus. You can go to Medina in Saudi Arabia, and the bones of Muhammad, the prophet, are there. The body of Buddha was cremated, and it was sent to 8 different places. But there's no shrine for Jesus. There are no bones. There's nothing inside the tomb. And folks, the stone was rolled away, not so that Jesus could get out, but so that you could get in and see the evidence. You thought it was so he could get out, didn't you? But no, he rose through the clothes, through the stone, and he holds the keys of death. He is alive. But the second piece of evidence is the women. We've got names here, and this indicates to us that Mark is not making this story up. if Mark was going to make a story up, he would have chosen men to be the first witnesses. Because in that time, a woman's testimony was not admissible in court. People did not believe women when they told events as eyewitnesses. They were regarded as being ridiculous and hysterical. And I'm sad to say that was what it was like then. So if Mark was making something up, he would have had men as the first witnesses. But he had to record it like this, that there were 3 women, because this is just what happened. And then, as a sort of next piece of evidence, other explanations don't make sense, folks. So people say, oh, well, the body was stolen. The body was stolen, they say. But by who? The Romans wouldn't want to steal the body, would they? They wanted to put him to death and to end this whole thing, this guy who was saying that he was the real king. They wanted to end it, and they were killing machines, the Romans. So why would they want to steal it? The Jews wouldn't want to steal it because, again, they regarded Jesus as a threat, and they wanted him done away with. Oh, well, the disciples stole the body. Well, where did they put it? And do you know that nearly all of the disciples were killed brutally for preaching that Jesus had risen from the dead? So do you think they really would have hid the body, kept it secret forever, made up a story that he'd risen from the dead, and then preached that he had risen, and then were killed brutally? And of course, just before all this, they'd all run away and forsaken Jesus. So that would really be a turnaround. It doesn't make sense, folks. So, you know, the other belief, the Muslim belief, is that Jesus never really died. A substitute was put on the cross. Well, that's ridiculous as well. The Romans, as we heard last week, they knew exactly what they were doing when they were killing somebody. So this really happened, folks. And, you know, if it didn't happen, what we're doing now is ridiculous. We are the most stupid people in the world for being here, for singing, for coming to church. If someone could prove to me that Jesus did not rise from the dead, well, I would never come to church again. I'm wasting my time. But I'm here because it really happened, and as we'll hear in a minute, it really matters. The last thing I want to show you in this text is where the angels say in verse 6, "Don't be alarmed, you are looking for Jesus the Nazarene who is crucified. He is risen, he is not here. See the place where they laid him, but go, tell his disciples and Peter. He's going ahead of you into Galilee." Now, why was Peter singled out? Well, Peter had just denied 3 times that he ever knew Jesus. I don't know him. I don't know him. I've never heard of this guy. And before the cock crowed, that happened, and Peter wept bitterly, as we heard last week. Peter has run away. Peter has lost the plot. Peter has had a massive meltdown. And yet, folks, 50 days later, Peter is the rock, Peter is the leader, Peter is the preacher, and Peter is saying, Jesus has risen from the dead. Well, what has happened to Peter? What happened to him? He's a runaway, he's had a meltdown. The reason is Jesus went to Peter, and first of all, the disciples were instructed to tell Peter, look, Jesus has risen. And Jesus restored Peter. And that's one of the most wonderful things in the Bible, actually, the restoration of Peter. And yet, folks, you know, isn't it strange that this reading, it ends with everyone frightened. Everyone is terrified. They don't know, they can't understand, they can't make sense of it. But they need to make a decision. Did this really happen? And Mark ends his gospel here because he wants all of us to make a decision, the most important decision that you make in your life. You make some important ones, like who you will marry, where you will live. But this is the most important decision of all, as Sanjay and Jahim are about to explain to us. And Mark ends his gospel here because he wants you to make a decision. What is your decision? Did this really happen? And if it did really happen, what does that mean? And we're going to find out a bit more about that later. Well, yeah, amazing. Wonderful to witness that. I want to tell you why the resurrection matters. So first of all, it really happened, and now it really matters. And you've seen why it matters in the lives of Jahim and Sanjay. But I want to tell you this, it matters for the whole world, for the whole creation. Because one day, because of the resurrection, the curse which is over us will be removed. And this was the only way to accomplish it, the cross and the resurrection. So there is a verse in Hebrews 9, verse 27. It says that every person is destined to die once and then to receive judgment. And death and the curse are experiences that we know in this life. Folks, I was a history teacher for 8 years, and what I taught in history, 20th century history, was the First World War, the Great Depression, the Second World War, the Cold War, the Vietnam War. If I was teaching it today, 21st century history, I'd be teaching the Iraq War, international terrorism, the war in Afghanistan, the war in Ukraine, and perhaps the coming Third World War. Why is it? What has happened to us as a human race? Why are we like this? Why are we always fighting on an international level and on a personal level? It's because this world is under a curse. Our relationships are all broken. And we have these vital relationships. Our relationship with God, which is explained in the first few chapters of the Bible, has been broken. Our relationship with each other has been broken. Our relationship with the creation, there are thorns and there are thistles, there is global warming. We realize today there's something going wrong with our planet. Greenhouse gases and warming that is threatening us as a human race. And even ourselves, we experience shame. Adam and Eve, when they realized they had disobeyed God, they were hiding. And God was saying, where are you? And the first few chapters of Genesis, they really explain to us how there is a curse on this world. No politician can fix these things. No leader, no teacher, no educational experience. It was only the death of Jesus on the cross where he took all the world's pain, all the world's curse, and the Bible writers describe it like this, that he sucked out the sting of death as he died on the cross. And as he rose again, he is the first fruits. He has conquered death, and he has removed the curse. One day, he's coming back, and he's going to bring his kingdom in, and we'll see that everything sad is going to become untrue. As Isaiah the prophet wrote, and as Paul quoted, where, O death, is your sting? Where, O death, is your victory? You people who have suffered mental health, who have suffered disability in your lives, who have suffered maybe emotional abuse and neglect, in the life to come, you will flourish because the curse is going to be removed. And Jesus won that victory on the cross and through his resurrection. In Lord of the Rings, Samwise says this to Gandalf. Gandalf, I thought you were dead, but then I thought I was dead myself. Is everything sad going to become untrue? What's happened to the world? And Gandalf said, a great shadow has departed. And then he laughed, and the sound was like music or like water in a parched land. Folks, the curse has been removed by Jesus. And that's why it matters, not just for individuals and their personal story, but for the whole world. And that's why this message is for the whole world. But it is also for every individual, whether you are 8 years old or 80 years old, whether you've been coming here all your life or whether you've just started coming here. This is an important message for you today on Easter Day 2025. As the writer to the Hebrews says, each person is destined to die once and after that face judgment. So the second reason why the resurrection of Jesus matters is we're all going to face judgment. Everything that we've done is going to be accounted for. Because Jesus rose, every person here will rise once their life here is ended. And God will demand an accounting for your life. And specifically, he will be asking you, how did you relate to my son, Jesus Christ? You heard about my son, Jesus Christ. Did you receive him as Lord when he was offered to you? When the opportunity was offered for you to have a relationship with Jesus that could change your life like Jahim and Sanjay, did you respond to my offer? Or did you ignore it? Did you trample on it? This is what he's going to specifically focus on in the judgment. Now, I would love to introduce Jesus to you today. I would love Easter Day not just to be a day where we've celebrated Jahim and Sanjay, but to be a day where somebody else, maybe a group of people this morning, come to know Jesus. I want to introduce him to you this morning. And maybe it is, folks, that you haven't come to church much in your life. Maybe it is like that you've been like Sanjay and you've thought, there probably isn't a God. And you've focused on yourself, you've focused on maybe making money, or maybe you're lost. Maybe you would admit that you're here this morning because you're looking for answers. And you may be a child, you may be a new adult, or you may be an old adult. But you know, the thing that you need above all in the difficult things that we go through in this life is you need Jesus. You need that relationship between God and you to be restored. And that can really help you and transform the relationships that you have with other people as well, and with yourself and your sense of shame and guilt. Jesus has done everything he can for you, folks. He's come and he was beaten and he was mocked and he bore your shame and he bore your guilt. And he is here this morning through these words and through this service that we've had and through the things that you've seen and the things that you are hearing now. And Jesus is knocking on the door of your heart. And I would love Easter Day 2025 to be the day where you open your heart to Jesus, where you receive new life, and where you resolve, you know what? I want to commit to him and I want to tell my story of my redemption, my salvation. I want to come up here. I want to do what they've done. That is a possibility. There is new life offered this morning.